Hamad Wa, Panyula Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh Shai, Asherai, Nathan Lanawa, Hashabeth, Bashalawam, Tawada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it. The Aliyah Ma'ar Shirai Machad, Psalms 121. Anya Rayam Ayam Yimya Oh Harim Mayan Yabawa Zarya Yabawa Mayahawa Shai Shai Shemayim Warataza La Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yela Yanawam Shashro Marka Hana La Yanawam Wala Yashan Shashomar Yashavella Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia Ayo Yad Yim Yad Yawamam Hashamash La Hakaya Wayarak La Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makab Rai Yashamar Napashya Yahweh Yashamar Habalakya Wabawayat My Thad wa Aid I Walam Basham Yahweh Shai the Wadaman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth even forever.
Amen. Shemaya Shavela, Hero Israel. Shemaya Shavela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaya Shavela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaya Shavela, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akad.
Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power.
Amen. Tapula Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayeh, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwef Kab, Taba'a, Rotazawanka, Hayeh, Aishat, Barataza, Kab, Bashamayim, Lathamanawa, Lakham, Yawam, Zad, Wasalaklanawa, Kabawaf Nawa, Kasalach Nawa, Kabawaf Yanawa, Wala Abiyanawa, O Messiah one above, Hawashinawa, Murad, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwaf, Wa Allah, Wa Thaparap, Wa Walam, Aman.
Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, when we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Aisharamatazawa, the Ten Commandments. La'ab, Yahayab, Lakab, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanyab, La'ab, Daishab, Lakab, Pasod, Wala'ab, Thaibadam, La'ab, Dalakwakaf, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka La Shawab Zakar Af Hayawam Hashabeth La Kodashwad Kabad Abiyaka Wa Amaka La Ab Duratazak La Ab Tanaab La Ab Taganab La Ab Thainad Shakur La Ab Takhamad Ko Ashereb La Ra'ayaka Aman.
Exodus 20 and 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bound thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor in all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Aman. Shabbat, please be seated. Barak Yahweh by Shimi Hawashai, Asheram Sananawa, Pari Agapan Thwada Aman. La Yahweh by Shimi Hawashai, Ath Yasher Allah. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Ahmad Wa, Panula Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanama, Aliyawan, Malak, Shamayim, Warataza, Wako, Dabarium, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawe, Arawanawe, Ahabnawe, Hapala, Yawa Aitaza, Yahawisha, Zakarnawa, Yehowa, Bartazawan, Aimke, Yash'ala, Azarnawa, Bana, was up, Yash'ala, O Nanawa, Yam Yan, Aita, Kayawam Yam, Makwadam, Babakushai, Shalak, Mike Allah, Watazwadak, Alahayim, La, Magdanawa, Raparnawa, Washma, Alnawa, Bakor, Shalak, Haroka, Shao, Yawashai, Lanawa, Alamadnawa, Rabium, Kakama, Thabawana, Wada Ike, Shao, the Barka, Basham, Yahawashai, the Wada, Thum Yed, Why Willam, Maman. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh. Remember, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, Most High, we beg you, right now like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh, thank you, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us the law. Barakah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Asheret, Nathan Lanawa, Hatharabet. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us light to see. Barakah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Asheret, Nathan Lanawa, Award, Larawet. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Asheret, Nathan Lanawa, Karan, Hayo, La Koreb, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Asheret, Nathan Lanawa, Hasheman, Zayeth, Lamashek, Yasha'ala. Shabwa, please be seated. Okay, so Shalom Yasharala. Okay. So Shalom everybody that's here in Philly. Shalom everybody watching us on live stream, and Shalom everyone listening in on teleconference. Welcome to Ha Yashar Al Kanas, or the Congregation of Israel, where we teach that the descendants of slaves, as well as the indigenous peoples found throughout the Americas mainly, make up the southern and northern kingdoms of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that we as a people fall into a lower state politically, economically, even religiously, because we broke the laws of God found in the Bible. And that we come out of this lower state that we fall into by turning back to these commandments we broke by following Jesus the Christ, or Yahweh Mashiach, which just means the anointed Savior. One way we do that is by keeping the Sabbath holy to the best of our ability, from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And as our particular branch Christ does, we go into a regular Sabbath service. This week we're back in the Old Testament, as you can see at the bottom in the scrolling marquee. We're going to read through First Chronicles, chapters 8 and 9, which, as you see in the title of the video, the house of Benjamin and Levi are going to be the main focus as far as when we read these chapters. My name is Nabia Zerubbabel. I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of going through the lesson with you guys today. When you take notes, just write down for your records that according to the Gregorian calendar, it would be March the 1st, 2025. And let me ask this real quick for the folks that are here. Since we know we just kept the 12th new moon holy, right? What would that mean today's date is according to our calendar? What month are we in and what day are we in?
What date? People on the conference line. Vote in the live stream. Type it in.
Once again, what month and what day are we in? Gabar, do you know?
Let's see. Thursday was the new moon, right? So Friday would be, the Friday night would be the second. So we're still on the second until the night. The night would be the third.
There we go. And what number month again?
The 12th.
There you go. So I like how the brother did that. He pretty much went through the math and said, okay, if we had the first new moon this time, and if we count from that time, this is where we're at. So yes, we're in the 12th month and the second day. Because if you read the scriptures, it tells you that what? Day begins and ends when the sun goes down. Right? Not only does the day begin when the sun goes down, but the day continues on from sundown to sundown. I guess it's funny to mention that too, because at least here in Philly, I know you got, people that deal with Islam all over the world, not just in the Americas, but I know it's a big one. A lot of our people are caught up in that. And they just started the Ramadan, right? According to Islam, where they fast during the day, but then they eat at night, and they do this for a certain period of time. We know we use the scriptures to show there's a day we fast for a full day, which is, as we're about to read, sundown to sundown, called the Day of Atonement, or Hayawam HaKaparim, which just means the Day of Atonement in the Hebrew. But yeah, just to show that first, the day begins when the sun goes down, just as a reference. I was pulling some scriptures the other night, going to even while we pray, and while we face towards the east when we pray, when we do the closing. You always want to make sure that you guys can at least pull the scriptures, not just for the milk topics, of course, but just even the formalities of what we do in the scriptures and why, whether it be facing towards the east, lifting up our hands like this, as opposed to this right here, which a lot of us probably learned to pray like this. You say, well, what's that? But you read the scriptures, you don't read us ever doing that, among other things. So scriptures are good to have on deck when it comes to the formalities. Even us saying, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, the formality even behind that, the scriptures tell us. Why we even say, when you translate that, meaning, Lord, in the name of Christ. So these are like, how you call it, pre-milk, or I just refer to it as just formalities, and having the scriptures in place to explain, not only what we do, but how and why we do it, the way we do it. And I see in the chat, the sister got the right day and month. So to wow for her, all blessings. So Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 6, which reads, Deuteronomy 16 and 6, but at the place which the Lord thy God, or in the Hebrew, Yahweh, thy power, because remember, God's not a name, it's a title, just like Lord, shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun. So you can use this scripture to what? Define what even actually means. It means the going down of the sun, or evening. At the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt, which we know we're close to, right? We're just about a month away and some change from that, right? But the reason I wanted to pull this is to show that even is the going down of the sun. And then we always go to Leviticus 23 to show when the day begins and ends by using the law pertaining to the Day of Atonement and keeping that. So it's a Day of Atonement, letting us know that it's a day long. It's going to tell us how long not only the Day of Atonement is, but also how long any day is. So Leviticus 23. I'll just get right to it in verse 32. Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 32, which reads, it shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest. The it, when you read above, going up to verse 26 on down, the it is referring to the Day of Atonement. 32 from the top again, Leviticus chapter 23. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. When you read the scriptures talking about fasting, right? When you read other scriptures, the afflict your souls in the context here is talking about fasting, which is no food or drink. Because some folks say, oh, yeah, I'm doing this fast or that fast. When you check out what they're doing, it's like, no, that's just a diet. That's not a fast. A true fast, according to scriptures, is no food or drink. It reads, in the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even shall you celebrate your Sabbath. See that? So it's considered a Sabbath of rest, the Day of Atonement. It says you shall afflict your souls, which we know talking about fasting. It says in the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, meaning from going down to the sun to going down to the sun. So that lets us know when a day begins and ends. So it doesn't begin at 12 midnight, doesn't begin at sunrise, it begins at sunset. And you don't have to get them, but reference scriptures as far as fasting. You can write down Esther chapter 4, which we'll be reading this in this month when we get into the days of Purim, just a couple weeks from now. But Esther chapter 4, and verse 16, which reads, Esther chapter 4, verse 16. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also, my maidens, will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, referring to the law of the Persians and Medes. And if I perish, I perish. Right? We'll get in the story behind this whole situation when we read this. But look at what it says. Neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. See that? So that's letting us know what a fast is. But you may say, but okay, it says fast here, but it doesn't say afflict your souls. What about that? So we got a verse for that too. So let's go to Ezra real quick. And it's 66 books, not the apocryphal one, but Ezra, Ezra, spelled that way. Ezra chapter 8. And we're going to read verse 21. And that 3-day fast was proclaimed by them at that time for that situation. So we have the fast that's ordained by the Most High, which is the Day of Atonement, but then they declared a fast in particular, given the situation that they were in. And then Ezra's going to do the same. So we can do that now. We want to make sure that we do the Most High's fast every year. But then if we're going to do our own fast, we can do that as well for whatever we're trying to fast for. Just make sure the why behind the fast is a righteous one, right? Scriptures talk about that. Ezra chapter 8 and verse 21 says, Then I, the I is Ezra, proclaimed a fast there at the river Ahava, that we might afflict ourselves before our God. See that? Afflict ourselves. So the afflict ourselves in Leviticus 23 and 32 is talking about fasting. To seek of him a right way for us and for our little ones and for all our substance. Right? So while they got the commandments and Ezra has the understanding of the law, he still is fasting before the Most High and having the people do that too, just so he can still guide them according to his righteous path. Because even though you might have the law and know what's right and wrong, you may not always know what the best answer is to choose when it comes to greater matters. So Ezra, knowing this, he's fasting for this. At verse 20 is funny above that. It's going to come up a little bit later. A certain people that's mentioned in that verse above. But let's get into First Chronicles. Just want to touch on those verses real quick to show what the full day fast looks like and how we did it according to the law on the 7th day of the month and the 10th day. Sorry, the 7th month and the 10th day, or the 9th day of the month at even, which is the same thing. Because the 9th day of the month at even is the 10th day, because the even begins the day as far as the new day.
What's the scripture in Ezra?
Ezra chapter 8 and verse 21. And I also read Esther 4 and 16. Two scriptures we can go to pretty much show the what it means to fast, as well as what it means to afflict our souls. And show how those two things are pretty much interlinked together. If you're Shalom brothers, if you guys could just keep it down a little bit because we're live. Thank you. Shalom, no, welcome. This microphone is pretty sensitive, so. All right, Shalom. So in First Chronicles chapter 8, in 1, focus being Benjamin, the youngest of the 12 tribes, the youngest of Jacob's sons. It says, Now Benjamin begat Bela, his firstborn, Ashbel the second, Ahura the third, Noha the fourth, and Rapha the fifth. And the sons of Bela were Adar and Gera and Abiud. That name Gera, you'll see it come up for a certain figure in Benjamin who was famous, right? One of our famous judges. That name Gera, you'll see it, as that was his father's name. It says, and Abishua and Naaman, not to be confused with Naaman the Syrian, right? Naaman just being a Hebrew name, because what you'll see sometimes is names of other nations might be a name for a brother. You read in these certain family lines, right? But now remember, every nation, regardless what language they speak now, they all had a Hebrew name first, right? From the different Hamite nations to the nations that came out of Japheth, the nations that came out of Shem, like us, we all had Hebrew names first before the Tower of Babel incident. And even nations that came after the Tower of Babel incident, they were coming out of the Hebrew family, right? Or the descendants of Eber, or in the Hebrew, Ibar. So reading on, says in verse 5, and Gera and Shephupham and Huram. These are the sons of Ehud. These are the heads of the fathers of the inhabitants of Geba, and they removed them to Manahath. Right? So talking about some history as far as nations and different peoples getting moved around as we went to go conquer Canaan and establish it. But now it jumps in and mentions this Ehud. That's what I was referring to. You read about him in the Judges, right? He was a famous judge who delivered us from the Moabites, namely their king, whose name I think was Eglon. But that's who this Ehud is talking about. He was a famous man in Benjamin. Real quick, I'll just give a verse for him, and then we'll continue on. So this is in Judges, just as a quick reference. So Judges chapter 3, the whole section, you can go from 12 pretty much all the way down to 30 to read his entire story. I'm just going to read one verse in particular, but once again, if you write down Judges chapter 3, 12 down to 30, I'm just going to read verse 15. So Judges chapter 3 and verse 15 reads, but when the children of Israel cried unto Yahweh, and you read above, it's going into us being captive to the Moabites, today being called the so-called Chinese, right, or Siam. It says, but when the children of Israel cried unto Yahweh, the Lord raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, son of Gera, a Benjamite, right, say those names again, a man left-handed, and by him the children of Israel sent a present unto Eglon, so that was his name, the king of Moab. And you read down, you get the story about what happens next. But it says a man left-handed, right? So when you go into hand you write with or shoot with or what have you, you usually will have a hand that you're better with one as opposed to the other, right? In this case, he was left-handed. Now, when we see this here, left-handed, don't take this out of context because we know in the scriptures, the right hand is associated with righteousness, the left hand is associated with wickedness. That means, just because you have a physical proclivity to write better with your left hand when it comes to writing or drawing or what have you, doesn't make you wicked. Some of us that might have had that experience in Catholic Church, you might remember the nuns come around and hit you on your hand if you had a proclivity to write with your left hand. They would say, nope, taking that left-handedness out of context, because even though he was left-handed, he was a righteous judge. And the Most High wasn't, coming down on him for being left-handed, right? That's just how he was. And you read about other Benjamites being left-handed too in other contexts when it talks about them being skilled to use sling, right? Or using slingshots to fight in battle and attack the enemy, right? So yeah, just because you're left-handed or ambidextrous, which means you can write with both hands, doesn't make you wicked. Don't take that out of context. But you give it to the Catholic Church, they'll go overboard with it. So yeah, that was Judges 3 and 15. Let's go back to 1 Chronicles 8. Now I'm in verse 7. So 1 Chronicles chapter 8 and verse 7 now, which reads, and Naaman and Ahiah and Gera, he removed them and begat Uzzah and Ahihud. And Aram begat children in the country of Moab after he had sent them away. Husham and Beerah were his wives, right? So you look on the map and you see where Benjamin is, kind of like right in the middle of Israel, right above Judah, but underneath where like Manasseh's plot was. And Benjamin's significant because their plot of land had the capital city within it, right? Or Jerusalem. When you look on the map and you see it. So it says in verse 9, and he begat of Hodesh his wife, Jobab, and Zabiah, and Misha, and Malcolm, and Jeuz, and Shekiah, and Mirmah. These were his sons, heads of the fathers, right? Remember, fathers can mean ancestors too, right? Those words go hand in hand when you look at the Hebrew. And of Hushim, he begat Abitub and El-Pael. The sons of El-Pael, Eber, and Misham, and Shemed, who built Ono and Lod with the towns thereof. So even going into the children, and then with towns they'll be responsible for building, them and those with them. We see the name Eber even being mentioned here, right? It's that name coming back again, right? So we could name ourselves or name our children Eber, right? If we saw fit, because that's a Hebrew name. You go into the meaning, it just means of the past. So while we famously know Eber being the forefather of the Hebrews, that name came up more than once, as we see here. This man being named Eber as well, that was in the family of Benjamin. So you'll see that even when it comes to the other nations, or even our people that are into Christianity and Islam, well, they'll take originally Hebrew names and then take on that name or have that name given to them, either anglicized, as they say, where it's like given, it's pretty much translated through English or into Spanish or into the French version of the same name, right? Because of being into Christianity of some kind or Islam of some kind. In Islam, you'll get our names, but then there'll be the Arabic version of that name, right? But yeah, the key is to know where these names come from, and then even better, if you can translate that name into the Hebrew. So it says in verse 13 now, it reads, Beriah also and Shema, who were bands of the fathers of the inhabitants of Aijalon, who drove away the inhabitants of Gath, right? You remember that city, Aijalon is significant, right? You go into that history of Aijalon, you read in Joshua, when we fought that famous battle, and the Mosai allowed a miracle through Joshua to happen, where he had the sun and moon stop in the sky, right? So he had the sun stop at one place, as far as the town it was above, and then the moon stopped another place in the town that it was above at that time when they were fighting that battle, right? And you see the mention of this Aijalon here. But I'll get that verse real quick, and then we'll keep it moving. But this is in Joshua. So Joshua chapter 10, you just write 12 to 14. That depicts this miracle, but you'll see this city being made mention or being referenced. So in Joshua 10 and 12 reads, Then spake Joshua to the Lord, or Yahweh, in the day when the Lord delivered the Amorites before the children of Israel. So that's the enemy we were fighting at this time. He said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon. Right? We see that city made mention of a lot too. And thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. It says, and the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hastened not to go down about a whole day. So I'll make a joke and say, yeah, we're a day behind on our calendar, right? As far as sunrise and sunsets, given this miracle the Most High allowed through Joshua, the will of Joshua, united with the Most High's will, that this miraculous event would take place. Where you got a full day of sunlight. Then it says in verse 14, and there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord or Yahweh hearkened unto the voice of a man. For Yahweh fought for Israel. So Most High was dealing with us on a high level that day for it to allow something like that, as miraculous as that, to take place, right? Because among the miracles that we read about in the scriptures, that one ranks pretty high, right? To be there to witness that, be you an Israelite or even another nation, that's something else. But main reference I'm pulling here is just the Ajalon here, and then the city is also referenced in when they're kind of doing like the cities that were pretty much arranged for Levi that were amongst the different tribes. You see it also in Joshua 21 and 24, chapter 21, verse 24, to go with Joshua 10, 12 to 14. But in Joshua chapter 10 and verse 21, Joshua chapter 21 and verse 24, read my notes wrong. Joshua 21 and verse 24, where it says, Ajalon with her suburbs, Gath Rimmon with her suburbs, 4 cities. But back to First Chronicles chapter 8, all that linking with 13. Let's keep going. First Chronicles chapter 8 in verse 14 reads, and Ahio, Shashak, and Jeremoth, and Zebediah, and Arad, and Ader, and Michael. Oh, there's a popular name, right? Then and now, Michael. Michael being what? One of the names of the 4 archangels, right? So you see those names come up too. Then and now, right? Well, we'll take on the name of even the beings that be in the 3rd heaven, right? Ispa and Joha, the sons of Beriah, and just another note to think of too. Check that out. Even the Elohim, right? The ones responsible for creating heaven and earth, even they have Hebrew names. So just showing how important the Hebrew is, right? It says in verse 17, in Zebediah and Meshullam and Hezekiah and Heber, Ishmerai also, and Jezliah and Jobab, the sons of Elpaal, and Jacham and Zikri, and Zabdi, and Elianai, and Zilphai, and Eliel, and Adaiah, and Beriah, and Shimrath, the sons of Shimhai, or you'll see Shema sometimes in the mid caption, depending on your Bible. Then it says, and Ishpan, and Eber, and Eliel, and Abdon, and Zikri, and Hanan, and Hananiah, and Elam. See that? So we know Elam being the name of what we call the East Indians today, and the neighboring peoples, because East Indians are probably the big group, but then you also have like the Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and others where they might be speaking a different language or following a different religion. But you go back far enough, they're all considered Elam. They all go back to that common ancestor. Once again, that's just a Hebrew name that they had for them. But it's a Hebrew name, so it could be used by anyone who speaks Hebrew, right? Even if you don't speak Hebrew, you could take on this name, but just in a like we see here, this anglicized version of it, where it's spelled like this, as opposed to how it would have been spelled in the ancient Hebrew. It says in Antothijah and Iphadiah and Penuel. You see that come up a lot too, that name, which is Penuel. I think the prefix of that means the face, God's face. You see Penuel. That goes back to where Jacob wrestled with the angel, going back in Genesis, right? It was named, that place was called Penuel. The sons of Shashak, right, who we saw mentioned above in verse 14. Now in verse 26 it says, and Shemsherai and Shirariah and Athaliah and Jereshiah and Eliah and Zikri, the sons of Jehoam. And then Athaliah, she's famous, right? As far as we read through the Kings, and we'll come back to again in the Chronicles as far as a rare instance of a queen that we had, right? Coming out of or during the times of the reign of Ahab in the north and some of her exploits. But we see this name coming up here too. Not referring to the same figure, of course, but just that same name. It says in verse 28, these were the heads of the fathers by the generations, chief men. These dwelt in Jerusalem, right? Because once, like I said before, Jerusalem was within the plot of Benjamin. You look at where Benjamin's land was situated. Verse 29, and at Gibeon, there's Gibeon again, dwelt the father of Gibeon, whose wife's name was Maacah, right? Yeah. And his firstborn son, Abdon, and Zur, and Kish, that name is a popular one too, which we know that name was the name, as we're going to read when we read down, the name of Saul, King Saul, our first king over united Israel, right? That name Kish. It says, and Baal and Nadab. Baal being another name, right? We know used to pertain to a false idol, but the name itself could be used. Just I think loosely translated into Lord, but it was used to pertain to that idol. And Nadab, that's a popular name if you guys know, remember the story of Aaron's first sons, right? Nadab and Abihu. Not the same Nadab, of course, but the same name. And Gedor and Ahio and Zachar and Mikloth begat Shemaiah. We see that name come up more than once too in different time periods. These also dwelt with their brethren in Jerusalem over against them. Now we're going to get into that I mentioned before as far as King Saul's line, right? It says, Ner begat Kish, and Kish begat Saul, and Saul begat Jonathan, right? So this is the same Saul and Jonathan we always read about during the new moon. We read about them keeping the new moon during that time when David was on the run from Jonathan's father Saul, since he sought his life. And Malchishua and Abinadab, another popular name, and Eshbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribaal and Meribbaal begat Micah. And the sons of Micah were Python and Melech and Tariah and Ahaz. Right? So we see Micah come up as one of the prophets we read about in the scriptures, but much later. And then we also have Ahaz mentioned, another popular name, a name for a king that even came out of, I think, both lines. Not only Judah, but I think also the line of Israel. I think they both had King Ahaz's at different times, if I'm not mistaken. But all in all, it's just a name that was used by different figures, right, throughout the lineage. It says, and Ahaz begat Jehoiada, and Jehoiada begat Alameth, and Asmaveth, and Zimri, and Zimri begat Moza, and Moza begat Baniah, Rapha was his son, Eliashah his son, Azel his son, and Azel had 6 sons, whose names are these: Azrikam, uh, Bokharu, and Ishmael. Right, there's another example. Ishmael, right? We know a nation called Ishmael, Abraham's eldest. But this is talking about a Hebrew brother that came out of Benjamin and had the same name. It's like we saw Elam was a name that they had too. But once again, not talking about the nation of Elam or the nation of Ishmael. It says in Sherariah or Sheariah and Obadiah, another popular name of a prophet, and Hanan. All these were the sons of Azel. So those were his 6 sons. Reading on in verse 39, it says, and the sons of Eshek, his brother, were Ulam, his firstborn, Jehush, the second, Eliphalet, the third. I think that name comes up more than once too. I think that might have been one of the names of either David's sons or David's brothers when you read it. Verse 40, and the sons of Ulam were mighty men of valor, archers, and had many sons, and sons' sons, 150. All these are the sons of Benjamin. So at this particular family of Benjamin, these sons of Ulam, it says that they were mighty warriors, warriors of or men of valor, right, or courage, that were skilled with bow and arrow, right? It says they were archers. So dope stuff there on the mention of Benjamin and those that came out of him, and those that he, his wives that he married, and then those children that came out of those particular unions. So reading on in 1 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 1. Let me see, just in case I might want to use this here. Let me just attach it, get it on deck before we start the next chapter. Okay, cool. So now in 1 Chronicles chapter 9 in verse 1. Okay, I see. It reads, so all Israel were reckoned by genealogies. That's what we're talking about now, right? Remember, don't get this confused when they talk about genealogies, or in the New Testament, they talk about endless genealogies. Because people will hear that and say, oh, you guys are reading Chronicles talking about, the families of the different tribes of Israel and different nations, right? That's not that big of a deal. That's not important, right? They try to undermine what we teach when it comes to salvation only being for one nation. And then how do we determine that? As we see, there's all types of ways that they try to use science to say, oh, this is what your nationality is based on the percentage of, where your certain ancestors that you had came from, as opposed to the Most High, where he said, no, I kept the nations in line, even though they mix, even though they may choose to mix, I had the spirits of those nations always come back in a third or fourth generation based on their forefathers, regardless of how they may look as far as their features, given the different qualities of their parents. But genealogy is important according to the scriptures, hence us even having a book called Chronicles, right, that deals with this. So genealogies, family lines are important. When you see that endless genealogy reference in those scriptures in the New Testament, it's not so much talking about, getting, caught up into, okay, what family line did you come out of? But it was actually talking about something else. When you look it up, it had to do with, which was an issue now too, but it was an issue then, a certain form of angel worship, which read the scriptures, we're supposed to worship the Most High and His Son, right? But when you read the context of that, they had this certain belief that, when you came from certain families, those families had ties to certain gods or powers, but not the Most High power, just different spirits that would have been subject to God, be they on the right hand or on the left hand, right? They would worship them which you read the scriptures in the New Testament that even speak against this. But that genealogy thing was supposed to pretty much tie into that when they make that reference. But either way, like I said, according to the commandments, we're not supposed to be worshiping anyone but the Most High or His Son, right? While they may have more power and might, we know that they operate on their behalf, right? They still answer to the Supreme Being and to His Son who sits at the right hand. And you go through the scriptures, and there's a topic we could talk about during the week and go into specifics. It's with those only two that you ever read about any of our people worshiping according to righteousness. Any spirits less than them that you are worshiping, that's a problem. So I'll read it again from the top when it says, "So all Israel were reckoned by genealogies. And behold, they were written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgression." Right? So kind of jumping in forward in time, it goes back, but then also jumps to the time when this was written, because according to scholars, they say these chronicles were written during the time of the exiles coming out of Babylon during the time of the Persians and Medo captivity, and then coming back into the land of Israel. It's pretty much the time period of the books of Ezra and Nehemiah was when Chronicles was written. Right, so where they would go back in time to kind of rewrite what had been destroyed. They would also touch on some other details behind families and where they had gotten scattered to, and also even writing details as far as when they were doing a census for the Israelites that were coming back into the land of Israel to rebuild it. They would take note here as well. So you'll see that in the Chronicles, going into the past and also going into the present when it was written, which was during the time of the exile, or our people coming out of the Babylonian, followed by the Persian and Medo captivity, coming back into the land. So now reading on in verse 2, it reads, "Now the first inhabitants that dwelt in their possessions in their cities were the Israelites, the priests, Levites, and the Nethinims." Right? So it's just now mentioning just the different groupings of different peoples that were set up in the land, right? We have the Israelites being mentioned as a whole. We have the priests and the Levites being made mention separate. I know someone had asked this before, because the sons of Aaron, they had permission to do certain things, that particular family. But then them coming out of Levi, the Levites as a whole, they weren't of the sons of Aaron. They had other responsibilities too. And you go into these Nethinims, if you remember back in Joshua, I was actually kind of laughing, because when I read Ezra 8:21 earlier about afflicting your souls, meaning fasting, you see Nethinims being mentioned there too, which anytime you see them being mentioned along with these other groups, they were people that we had as servants, as our slaves pretty much, that we had captive, that when you read back in the time of Joshua, you read about how we met up with them and the situation behind how they were preserved due to a certain promise that was made. Even though they were supposed to be utterly destroyed, they were preserved, these Nethinims. So like I said, you'll see them mentioned in different places. You go through the scriptures. If I read about them in the Zondervan, for example, which I have here, if I go to page 369, so you'll link this with 9 and 2, but Zondervan, page 369 on the Nethinims. Sorry, 396. It reads, Nethinim, given ones, that's what that name actually translates into. It says large groups of servants who perform menial tasks in the temple, references 1 Chronicles 9 and 2 where we're at. Also references Ezra chapter 2, 43 to 58, as well as Ezra 8, 17 to 20, and Nehemiah 46 to 56. Once again, those books being written around the same time that Chronicles was written. Probably descended from Midianites, and it mentions Numbers 31 and 47. Then it mentions Gibeonites, and that links Joshua 9 and 23. it says, and other captives. And it says, we just mentioned, they are usually listed with priests, Levites, and singers and porters. And it makes another reference to Ezra chapter 2 and verse 70, right? But yeah, like I said, when you go back into that story, you'll see what happened there with the Nethinims and how they kind of became like a grouping that we pretty much used and dealt with that we had as servants. And you see them even liking them or comparing it to the Gibeonites as well. Those the Canaanites that were there first when we were conquering the land. We read Joshua pretty much like the ninth chapter as a whole. It goes into that particular story. If you wanted to read up more on that, but once again, just Joshua the ninth chapter as a whole. If you were more interested in what we just read about as far as the Nethinims and the Zondervan. But anyway, let's go on in First Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 3. So First Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 3, it says, and in Jerusalem dwelt of the children of Judah and the children of Benjamin and of the children of Ephraim and Manasseh, right? Because like I said, you look on the map, it was kind of right there in the middle. And you had different tribes that bordered where Benjamin was at, which you have Jerusalem right smack dab in the middle amongst them. So this is First Chronicles chapter 8. Let me read on here. Hold on one second. Persian period. Yeah, there we go. So First Chronicles chapter 8. Sorry, chapter 9 and verse 4, where it says, Uthai, the son of Ammihud, the son of Omri, the son of Imri, the son of Bani, the son of the children of Perez, the son of Judah. Right? It's going into a line going back to Perez. We read that story about how Perez came to be and his twin brother born from his daughter-in-law in the situation how that transpired. It says, of the Shilonites, Isaiah, the firstborn, and his sons, and the sons of Zerah, Juel, and their brethren, 690, and the sons of Benjamin, Salu, the son of Meshullam, the son of Hodaviah, the son of Hasenua, and Ibneiah, the son of Jeroham, and Elah, the son of Uzi, the son of Mikri, and Meshullam, the son of Shephatiah, the son of Ruel, the son of Ibnijah, and their brethren according to generations, 956. All these men were chief of the fathers in the house of their fathers. Then I'm reading on in chapter 10, it says, and of the priests, Jediah and Joarib and Jachin. This Jehoiarib is significant if we don't remember, because remember when we read about the Maccabees and we read about Mattathias and his sons, who became referred to as the Maccabees as a whole, even though really which pertained to his son Judas Maccabeus, right? Which that word translates into hammer, because of the hammer-like blows he was able to deliver unto the enemy, right? It tells you that Mattathias, his father, therefore, and thereby them, they shared ancestry from a priestly line that came out of Joarib. So this Jehoiarib is referring to that same figure. So to link with chapter 9 and verse 10, you can just write down First Maccabees chapter 2. First Maccabees chapter 2. Oh, and I see the question out there for the sister, from the sister. A warrior, that's a Torah question. When you read in the law, right, as far as the tabernacle, and then later on the temple, which pretty much followed the same structure as the tabernacle, right? You had outside of the tabernacle, you had the outer court and the inner court, right? Where the inner court would be where Israelites general could gather together, right, to come before the priests. But then the outer court was where the Gentiles were able to gather. But now anybody that went beyond the point of the altar of burnt offering, which is where the sons of Aaron were, right? Like Kahan did here in the class, he did the death motion. Yeah, they would be put to death. So the Most High gave us those instructions you read back in the first 5 books, as far as who could go where. But yeah, anything past the inner court was only for our people, and then beyond that, it was for the sons of Aaron, and even within the tabernacle, later the temple, the sons of Aaron could go in there. But now the holiest of holies, only the high priest of the sons of Aaron during every given generation could go in there, and that was during the time of the Day of Atonement. Only once in the year was he supposed to even go back there like that, right? So Mosai was very specific as far as when he had his tabernacle, when he gave us the design for the tabernacle. We gave Moses the design, and then gave it to Aaron as far as to know what they need to do, and also to the builders like Bezaliel and Aholiab, the men who were the craftsmen who actually build the different devices we use, whether it was the cherubims or the what's that thing called? Oh, the Ark of the Covenant, the table of incense, the candlestick, table of showbread, the altar of burnt offering, and everything else that went into the tabernacle, right? They would build it, but then once it was set up, the Most High gave specific instructions as far as who could go where and when. But yeah, those are all kind of lessons in and of themselves. But I always say that's a good way to kind of exercise your visual memory if you're trying to like kind of do a walkthrough. If you were to go to the tabernacle, that's what you would see, right? You go to the tabernacle of the congregation, you would see the outer court first as you get furthermost, then the inner court where Israel would be at, then you get to the altar of burnt offering where the sons of Aaron would be. Go behind there. On the left side, you see the candlestick. On the right side, you see the table of showbread. Straight to the back of the holy place, you would see the altar of incense. Then behind the veil, you've got the Ark of the Covenant. So hopefully that helps some if you wanted to visualize it. I try to paint that picture as clear as possible. But in First Maccabees chapter 2, so yeah, when we were in the wilderness, we would break down and set up. You would have the Levites, they would move the different items back and forth. But then once we kind of set things up, that's where the sons of Aaron would pretty much go in there. Even though they could touch those things as Levites, they weren't allowed to go inside of it once it was set up. So you kind of had a similar thing with the Nethinites. While we might have given them different or the Gibeonites, we might give them different tasks. When it came to things being set up, at least on the time of Joshua, which was before the temple, they definitely couldn't go in. That's where those rules were to be exercised. So First Maccabees chapter 2, it reads, First Maccabees chapter 2 in verse 1, it says, "In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. So Joarib is the same as Jehoiarib, read about in First Maccabees chapter 2. In First Chronicles chapter 9 in verse 10. So First Maccabees 2 and 1 showing you that this family came out of this Jehoiarib, as mentioned in First Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 10. So it says, so back at First Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 10, it says, and of the priests, Jediah and Jehoiarib and Jachin, it says, and Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Meraioth, the son of Ahitub, the ruler of the house of God. Right? So he's going into sons of Aaron, the Levites, but more specifically the Aaronites, if you want to be more specific. It says in verse 12, and Adiah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Pasha, the son of Malchijah, and Maasai, Maasai, the son of Adiel, the son of Jezerah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Meshilemeth, the son of Immer, and their brethren, heads of the house of their fathers, 1,703 score, very able men for the work of the service of the house of God. One second here. Oops. Just lost my page. Sorry. 1 second, guys. Back in First Chronicles chapter 9. Okay, good. So now reading on, it says, and the Levites, I'm in verse 14. Shemaiah, the son of Hashub, the son of Azrikam, the son of Hashabiah of the sons of Merari, right, which was one of the sons of Levi. It says, and Bakbakar, Hiresh, and Galal, and Mattaniah, the son of Micah, the son of Zikri, the son of Asaph, and Obadiah, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Galal, the son of Jeduthun, and Berechiah, the son of Asa, the son of Elkanah, that dwelt in the village of the Netophathites. And the porters were Shalom and Akub and Talmon and Hyman and their brethren. Shalom was the chief, who hitherto waited in the king's gate eastward. They were porters in the companies of the children of Levi. Like we're talking about before, all Levites weren't tasked to the same thing. The sons of Aaron had a specific task. Then you had certain families of Levi, certain of those three sons that were tasked to do certain things. So reading on in verse 18, where it says, who hitherto waited in the king's gate eastward, they were porters in the companies of the children of Levi. And Shallum, the son of Korah, the son of Ebiasaph, the son of Korah, and his brethren of the house of his father. The Korahites were over the work of the service, keepers of the gates of the tabernacle, and their fathers, being over the host of Yahweh, were keepers of the entry. It says, and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, was ruler over them in time past, and Yahweh was with him, right? If you go back into Numbers, we read about Phinehas and him having a name, an everlasting covenant established with him because of his zealousness for God's righteousness to uphold those laws, as his brother had married a strange woman, and he had put him to death with a javelin. Read that story going back in Numbers 25. But even that name Phinehas will come up again too, shared by other brothers later on. But just talking about the grandson of Aaron, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron. It says in verse 21, and Zechariah, the son of Meshelemiah, was porter of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. All these which were chosen to be porters in the gates were 212. These were reckoned by their genealogy and their villages, whom David and Samuel the seer did ordain to their set office. Right? So this going back to like we were before in Samuel, as far as how during David's time, along with Samuel, who was the last judge before Israel came on the scene, before David came on the scene, how they appointed certain Levites, other offices like singers or porters and things of that nature, to do the service of the tabernacle and the congregation, which, like I said, is right before the time of the temple being established, whereas the temple would take on like the same structure more or less of the tabernacle, but kind of supersede the tabernacle, and there would be other rules or other things that will pertain to that going forward. But as far as that family being set apart, we see that being mentioned here in verse 22, and how many there were of them. But now reading on in 23, it says, so they and their children had the oversight of the gates of the house of Yahweh, namely the house of the tabernacle, by wards. In 4 quarters were they porters toward the east, west, north, and south. And their brethren, which were in their villages, were to come after 7 days from time to time with them. For these Levites, the 4 chief porters, were in their set office and were over the chambers and treasuries of the house of God. Right? This is also kind of reminiscent too of we're reading about certain kings, going back into First Kings, First and Second Kings, how they had certain Levites that were set over the treasury. I know that one king, he had that. I think he had built that, like that contraction that pretty much received treasury from the people. I think it was the king that came after King Uzziah, if I'm not mistaken. It's kind of making me think about that a little bit. But reading on in verse 27, it says, and they lodged round about the house of God, because the charge was upon them, and the opening thereof every morning pertaineth to them. And certain of them had the charge of the ministering vessels, that they should bring them in and out by tale, or by a certain amount. Some of them also were appointed to oversee the vessels and all the instruments of the sanctuary, and the fine flour and the wine, and the oil and the frankincense and the spices. And some of the sons of the priests made the ointment of the spices. it reads, and Mattathiah, one of the Levites, who was the firstborn of Shalom, who's, I think it said above, was chief. The Korahite had the set office over the things that were made in the pans, right? This Korah, you sometimes will see this in the Psalms. They'll mention certain songs are written for the sons of Korah, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's the same Korah we're reading about here. This Korahite that this Shalom was, as far as the family that he came out of Levi. It says, and other of their brethren of the sons of the Korahites were over the shewbread to prepare it every Sabbath, right? So there we go. As far as the shewbread being prepared, we read about that in Samuel's, read about that specifically when David was on a run from Saul, and he ate the showbread. It wasn't lawful for him to eat, right? But applying grace, at least in that situation, in that it was meant for the priests. It says in verse 33, and these are the singers, chief of the fathers of the Levites, who remained in the chambers were free, for they were employed in that work day and night. So that was their job, right? That's what they did. These chief fathers of the Levites were chief throughout their generations. These dwelt at Jerusalem. Now, reading on in verse 35, it says, and in Gibeon dwelt the father of Gibeon. So it's kind of like a rehash of what we read in the previous chapter, as far as chapter 8 of First Chronicles 8. And we see Gibeon mentioned again too, just like Ajalon being mentioned. Those cities being chief locations, especially within the midpoint of Israel when you look on the maps. But it says in 35, and in Gibeon dwelt the father of Gibeon, Jehiel, whose wife's name was Maacah, and his firstborn son Abdon, then Zur, and Kish, and Baal, and Ner, and Nadab, and Gedor, and Ahio, and Zechariah, and Mikloth, and Mikloth beget Shemaim, and they also dwelt with their brethren in Jerusalem over against their brethren. And Ner beget Kish, and Kish beget Saul, and Saul beget Jonathan, and Malchishua, and Abinadab, and Eshbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Merabaal, and Merabaal beget Micah, and the sons of Micah were Python, and Melech, and Tarea, and Ahaz. And Ahaz beget Jarrah, and Jarrah beget uh, Alimeth, and Asmaveth, and Zimri. And Zimri beget Mosa, and Mosa beget Baniah, and Raphiah, his sons, Eliashah, his son, and Azel, his son. Azel had 6 sons we read about before, whose names are these: Azrikam, Bokharu, and Ishmael, and Sheariah, and Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Azel. So when we go forward in First Chronicles 10, it's going to go back in time, but more so focus on uh, David and some of his exploits when we come back to Chronicles as we read on. And we've come to the end, at least, of the chapters that we read today. Like I said, which were mainly just focused on Benjamin as well as Levi and those particular families. As far as the verse I was thinking of when I read Ezra 8 and 21, when I read Ezra 8 and 20, I kind of glanced above where I saw, like I mentioned earlier, the Nephilims being made mention of. But yeah, that was in Ezra chapter 8 and verse 20. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but it was like right above Ezra 8 and 21, where it talked about the fast and what the fast was about. But yeah, another verse you could add to that for the notes above when we read that in Ezra 8:21, as well as the entry in the Zonovan pertaining to the Nephilim and who the scholars approximate as far as who they thought them to be, and how they related them to the Gibeonites, as far as the situation would happen with the Gibeonites, as I mentioned also in Joshua. I did have a map, but I'm not really sure if we really need this one just yet. But I can still, I guess, share with you since we are kind of finished. Let me just make sure I have the right thing displayed here. The Return of the Jewish Exiles. Sorry, try to move this screen over. So we'll touch on this map again. We'll probably go into more detail as needed once we kind of get through the later parts of Chronicles, get into Ezra and Nehemiah. But it was somewhat referenced in First Chronicles chapter 9 and 1. But if I share my screen real quick, you guys can see it. Let's see here. Add to stage. This laptop is a little slow. So as you can see with these purple lines and these red lines, right? The purple line talking about the first wave of exiles that came back, where it mentions Zerubbabel, who was with Jeshua, son of Josedek. You read the first parts of Ezra and Nehemiah, and then later on you read about Ezra and Nehemiah themselves and their trek coming back and the way that they came out of the captivity to then go back to Jerusalem to reestablish themselves. And you see some of the captions here explaining what took place in these different areas and what time. But we see here where the origin parts, the origin places are, where we see Susa, which you know was the capital, the Persian, Medo-Persian capital of the Medo-Persian Empire, which we'll get into more detail with that when we get into Purim. And we also see Babylon here as well, where that's situated. As the Babylonians being the top empire, they would be followed up by the Medo-Persians. And then due to that prophecy we read about with, what's his name? Cyrus, king of the Persians, he would be used by the Most High, being referred to as like his servant. You read it in the scriptures. Because everybody is controlled by the Most High ultimately, even though we as a nation are considered the Most High's servant. But he's even referred to as a servant. Read about the prophecies of him in Isaiah, where it says he'd be the one to, that he was anointed by God to allow us to go back into the land to set it up again, which is what you see here in this in these visuals. But like I said, we'll come back to these and come back to some of these specifics later on. But it was just briefly mentioned in First Chronicles, the 9th chapter, in the first verse. I saw a hand.
Yeah. One thing also for whoever's listening to retain and what we just I just read the First Chronicle 8 and 9. Is a recapture of First King, Second King, and First Samuel, Second Samuel. But this time it pretty much show you how the Most High always has a remnant, that those people that we just read, they are not just mere people. They are specifically selected families that the Most High retained, who have not served other gods. And showing you in every captivity and everywhere we go, the Most High always have a remnant, so that his work that he said would happen continue to happen. Even in this captivity, same thing applies. So in every captivity where the children of Israel are, there's always a remnant who would be doing this work, so that his promise would be accomplished. So all these people that you read, those are people who have been diligent in doing the Most High's work. Even the majority, go astray, but the Most High always reserve a selected few, right, to continue his work. And just to show us that no matter how bad we get, the Most High's plan always and will continue with those remnants.
Come. Okay.
And you can use First King 19 and 18 as reference.
First Kings 19:18.
Okay.
You gonna read that verse or?
God, I will read that verse. First Kings 19. And verse 18, and it reads, "Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the need which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him." Right? So again, it's in every captivity, you always have people who side with the enemy. Right? You always have people who have, get themselves seduced by the delicacies, the advantage, the false sense of inclusion. You always have those. The majority always go with them. But in the midst of all, you have people who said, "Nah, I'm still gonna go with, the Most High," and the Most High always choose these people to continue his work. So the Most High gave that example right there, just like in Joshua 24:15, when everybody's going astray, it says, "As for me and my house, we're gonna serve the Most High."
Come. And Khan Samak has the banner that he put up that showcases that verse, right? That we have up here is decoration in the school. In Joshua 24:15. Khan, the water for that.
Also, I might add, you got David. Well, even though you see those names, David is the one who give instruction for these things to be done. Organize the priests, organize how the method of how things should be done. Right, the organization pretty much was, David, was the leader above all. That's instituting, the office of how Israel should be organized. And then we had Solomon, of course, build the temple after.
Khan. And yeah, this was just looking at the what we were saying in the chat about the Nephilims. I don't know if I misspoke when I read the definition here, where like we always say when we use the references like the Zonovan, while they get certain things right, even they'll question things, and they even question these things too, as well as far as the posterity of the Nephim, as far as where they come from. Because remember, the name itself just means the given ones, um, as we discussed earlier. And like I said, they have a section here where he just said probably descended from Midianites, and they reference Numbers 31 and 47, which when you go into that chapter, it's not really, it's not really showing that for sure that that's where they come from. And then, like I said, it likens them unto Gibeonites, and it says and other captives, but doesn't say that they were necessarily just strangers. But when you were asking the question about who can go into the tabernacle and to what extent, I was referring to the tabernacle specifically, because I think the elder had mentioned them being able to go into the temple. So I'm not sure if when I said it, when I explained it, if I kind of had the tabernacle, the temple overlapped as like the same thing, which the way I meant to phrase it, if I didn't phrase it, if it wasn't clear, is that the temple, while it had features that were different, it was modeled after the tabernacle. And what I told you for the tabernacle is true as far as the outer court, the inner court, the holy place, and the holiest of holies, as far as those partitions and who could go within those partitions. So if there was some overlap between the temple and the tabernacle concerning the question, I just want to make sure I clarified that so that there wasn't any confusion. Because maybe the way I said it might have blurred the line some. Okay. Well, it looks like that's it. If anyone has any other scriptures or comments they may want to bring out, if they don't have any other scriptures or comments they want to bring out, uh, we can end there. But I'll give it a moment or two in case someone does want to bring out something else. So for I see a Yendabar Aqua. For next week, we're going to go back to the New Testament, which is Revelation. Now we're in chapters 17 and 18, I believe, for March. So if you go into your schedule for January to June of 2025, which would be the 8th of March, Revelations chapters 17 and 18 is going to be next week's reading. So definitely feel free to check that out. Or if during the week as you're reading that, you might have some questions or things you wanted to ask about, feel free to mention it in the Tuesday or Friday class. We can discuss it then before we go into the full breakdown this upcoming weekend. So once again, Revelation 17 and 18, next week's reading. As far as the housekeeping goes, I have shared at the bottom here our class time, which is Tuesday and Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m., as well as the number to call, 667-770-1085, with an access code of 521455 if you want to dial in by phone. And also, when we do our Tuesday and Friday class from 7 to 10 p.m., we also do a Zoom web link over profitabletalks.com. So whatever device you're using, be it a phone or a tablet or a laptop or a desktop, if you go to this site, as long as you have Zoom installed on your device and go to the site with your web browser, it should pull you in, right in, and it pull the app up so that you can attend. And then it'll ask for you to log in with like your Gmail, whatever email that you use. So that's how to attend the class that way. And then you can see different of us that are on the class discussing different things. Also, if anyone want to make donations to the school, either for a holy day or for tithes or just for a free will offering, to help with any work that we do when it comes to putting together the lessons or the service or the Holy Day preparation or other things that we do when it comes to our street ministry. You can make your donations to Hayashal Kanaz, as you see it spelled there in the scrolling marquee at the bottom. 3826B, Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19140. And if you want to donate online, we have paypal.me/HYK12, right? That you can make donations to. And also through Zelle, we have our Zelle number, which is 646-620-7378, if you wanted to donate that way as well. Please like and share the video to further out the message of what we're teaching here as far as the truth about the Most High, the truth about Christ, the truth about who he came for, as far as God's people, right? And what we got to do in these last days to wake up. And we'll continue to do this work as the Most High gives us his spirit to allow us to follow in his son's name. May we continue in this work and other branches of Christ out there, keeping holy days and teaching the truth and spreading the word, the true gospel, as far as, like I said earlier, the truth about the Most High in Christ, truth about God's people, and the role we play in these last times leading forward into the kingdom. As far as praying to the Most High in the name of Christ, I'll read this verse real quick, just like another formality scripture like we were talking about when we first started. As far as the why we say the Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, right? Or the Most High in the name of Christ. But this is in the New Testament. This is Colossians chapter 3. Once again, Colossians chapter 3 and verse 17. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 17, which reads, "And whatsoever you do in word or deed," right? So things we say, things we do, which define us. "Do all in the name of the Lord Jesus," or the Adawan Yahweh Shai, "giving thanks to God and the Father by him." Right? So that's why we say Bahashem Yahweh Shai, right? So in case someone has a question, why do you guys greet each other like that? You can go to this verse. All right. So Shar Shabbat Yasharah, thank you for joining us today. Continue to enjoy the rest of your Sabbath day on this second day of the 12th month. Let's keep the rest of the day holy. Let's continue to watch and pray as we get close to that day when Christ makes the second coming. I know a hot topic right now is the new president, some of his dealings with other world leaders. I know this last 24 hours has been a lot of talk about his sit down with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, right? And we're kind of talking about it here in the school a little bit. But yeah, just as you look at those, as you watch those things, always remember the prophecies in the scriptures when it comes to, before it's all said and done, who's going to be on what side before that third world war takes place, right? Because in the prophecy, we'll talk about this in the classes during the week as well in more detail. But remember who's going to be on whose side before it's all said and done. As far as you got on in the West, you got the U.S., the horde rides on top of the beast, like the elders been bringing out in Revelation. He's going to bring it out actually this Sabbath in particular, right? Again, we go to Revelation 17. In the European countries that she rides on the backs of. And then you have Russia, or as Revelations refers to, Gog Magog and her allies. And as the prophecy tells you in Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, it talks about, especially in 38, it talks about how you're going to have two figures in particular, France and Germany, are going to defect from the Western powers, that conglomerate, and actually go to the side of Russia and her allies, right? So as you check out these current events, these different things on the world stage, we can see the Most High's plan being fulfilled. The Most High's plan is coming to pass, right? It may be a thing where you say, okay, well, when is this move going to happen? But you'll see the small moves the Most High's having take place are all going to build up to these big moves that are going to take place that If you were to tell certain folks this now, they would say, "Oh, that's weird. That would never happen." Right? France and Germany would never defect to Russia. But we know the Most High has been right 100% up to this point in the record book. So I'm going to give the Most High that credit to say, yeah, everything else He says is going to happen too. It's just a matter of us seeing the events as they take place day by day, week by week, month by month, season by season, and then questioning and saying, how's the Most High using this current event to then set the stage for what's to come? As far as the big picture, as far as what we see that's prophesied in the scriptures. See, this all pretty much being another a puzzle piece in that bigger plan that the Most High uh, is fulfilling as the days go ahead. So yeah, we can't stress that enough as prophets and prophetesses to continue to watch and pray and to consider the scriptures and see how what we see is pretty much lined up with that, because prophecy is one of the key things we're going to use to show our people that are still in the world if we got nothing better to do than really to trust in the Lord and trust in His word, because anything else beyond that is uncertain, right? I'll just make a one mention because I was laughing with Kahan about it. That one mention in the discussion between Trump and Zelensky, right, the head of Ukraine, and people questioning the authenticity of it. There were some folks saying, okay, it was a show or a stage, kind of draw attention on them. But one expression I thought that was interesting when he mentioned, he said, Trump, you have a big ocean, but he said, keep in mind that I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said, what don't think it'll always be this way, that more or less bad things can happen to you too. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but as soon as Zelensky made that statement, you see both Trump and Vance get up in arms and say, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Right? You need to worry about yourself. You need to worry about the cards you have to play. But it's just like, all right, Zelensky might be the underdog here, even though his country does produce a lot of things. It has a lot of resources, but was he wrong as far as the Most High's plan? Was he actually wrong in what he said in that instance? Time will tell it, right? But you can see they didn't like that whole that idea that America could well-being could be threatened, which reminds me of what we read in the prophecy concerning the great whore of Babylon, where it says she sits like a queen, and how she'll see, no loss of children or see no sorrow, which we know that's not true, right? But that's how she views herself. So Trump and Vance kind of jumping up like that, maybe think of that as far as them, trying to hold this stance that, the sun will never set on the American empire, just like the British said before. It's just like, all right, you guys can, posture all you want, but we'll see. We will certainly see. All right. So Shar Shabbat once again. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath, Israel. And with that, we'll begin the closing prayers. So Shalom Yasharala Wa Manaka Tawa, which just means good afternoon. Let me change this banner here so you guys can see closing prayers instead of Shabbat. Oh, I usually break these down too. This is Shabbat or Shabbatha, Shabbat, which just means Sabbath, and then Shalom, which just means peaceful or peace, and then Yashara'ala or Yashara'ala Israel. I meant to say that earlier. Sorry if I forgot, but that's what that caption means. Okay, let's do the closing prayers now. Barakapiawa by Shimi Hawishai, Ashiran, Snana, Poria Gaban, Tuara Man. La Yahweh by Shimi Hawishai, Asherah. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Imadwa, Panyawa, Yerushalayim, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Shemai Lanawe Aithat Yam Aithat Shalak Mike Allah Wala Alahayim Tazwadakim La Shema Ayu Barak Rabha Magan Wa Chaziyak Banye Yash Allah Wa Shalak Lanawa Rabin Kakama Thabawana what I wait a minute. Salakia. Let me start this over. Let me do the end of prayer from the top again. I feel like I'm reading one thing, but I'm saying something else. All right, let's try this again. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Babakushai Shemai Lanawa Aitha Yam Aitha Shalak Mike Allah Wala Alahayim Tazwadakim Le Shema Ayu Barak Rabha Magan Wa Chaziyak Banye Yash Allah Wa Shalak Lanawa Rabim Kakamad Rabim Da'ait Rabim Bayanad Rabim Sabalanwath Rabim Amawan Rabim Aqua Rabim Mahabim Rabim Haganad Rachanaya Wasalak Kau Kataemnawa La Akim Wa Akiwat Wayash Allah Tham Yad Waiwalam Dasham Yehoshai Thawada Man. English translation: Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now. Right now, send Mike on the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four corners prayer. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Barak Nawe Wayash Ale Wabat Yasaparim Shema Yashirele Yahweh Elohoi Nawe Yahweh Akhet. English translation: Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us and Israel in the house of books or the school. Then we said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So with that, we'll say Shalom wa Ashar Shabbat. Have a blessed Sabbath day. Continue to walk in the Spirit, Israel, Yasharala, and Most High's will talk to you about it in the upcoming classes this week. Manakah Tuab, Yasharala.
Shalom.